What's up guys, it's Nofsky with Academia Audio, and today I'm going to show you how I made a song in the genre of Seven Lions and Illenium. This is what it sounds like.
Lights made me blind and I'm losing my mind. And galaxy, the universe, tried everything to make it work, but we can't stop. No, we can't stop the sky from falling.
Alrighty guys, so that was it. A song in the genre of Seven Lions, Illenium, Trivecta, Nurko, Said the Sky, the list goes on, the melodic dubstep, future bass. I do want to give a really quick shout out to two subscribers of mine, Kowser and Benedict Stock. I apologize if I pronounced those wrong, but they were the inspiration behind this video. They requested it, and so I wanted to get this out there for you guys. So as I was studying this genre to prepare this song, there was really one main takeaway that I was getting from all the different artists and all the songs, and that is the secret of layering. Now, there are a few things, because I know the genre future bass uses saw stacks as well, and so as far as melodic dubstep goes, and the difference between the two is what I found in melodic dubstep is there's more of a gritty bass line. There's usually a lot of like dub fills, and the amount of layering that goes into building your super saw stack or massive drop synths. So let's go ahead and start with the drop synths. So when I went about making these drop synths, I started with this guy. And this was a serum patch I threw together. It's a pretty simple one, just the saw rounded, DS saw and tri. I have them on different octaves. This one's at 0, this one's up an octave, and then I also did pan this one to the left and I panned this one to the right. I put the unisons at different amounts just to kind of give it a different texture. I then layered in some bright white noise. I also layered in a sub. I'm throwing them all through this filter, and I'm really just using this for the drive knob. When you have a filter on here, it takes all these sounds and it throws them in depending on if they're highlighted, and as it runs it through here, you can utilize this as another form of saturation. It gives it a certain color and accent. As far as the effects go, I just have a little bit of hyperdimension and then chorus. I was going to utilize the compression, but I wanted to do that in the post-processing instead. And this is what that sounds like. I also do have it panned 8 to the right a little bit. Next, I went ahead to saw number 2. I panned it 9 to the left. And as far as the serum preset goes, it's almost identical. I changed the noise from white to pink. I changed up the saws, or I changed up the oscillators, wavetables. I have this one on 0, this one up an octave. Same thing going on with the filter, a sub as well, but I changed the wavetable, and then the exact same effects. That way, it was kind of in the same vibe as the other serum preset, but it wasn't identical, so it was able to kind of sit in its own space. This is what that sounds like. And you might be wondering, man, that kind of sounds like crap on its own. The reason that might be that way is I do have quite a bit of distortion going on after the fact. So this is what these two sound like together without all that distortion. So we're getting there. It sounds pretty full. As far as making the MIDI for this, I did have my chords, and then I did kind of build a lead line on top, and then later on I did solo that lead line on a different track as well. Next, I put in some crowd noise to kind of fill out that background space, and this is what that sounds like. I also put in a little vocal sustained choir note in F minor. And then I also used another vocal tonal one shot. I washed it out in reverb and then I rendered it into audio and pasted it across. And this is what that sounds like. As far as the lead that I put out on its own track, this is what that sounds like. And really quick, I do want to point out some of these sounds might sound completely whack on their own. So when I was going about choosing these, it's really important to listen in context because as a whole, the sound is really solid, really full, doesn't feel like it's lacking. But when we're soloing these sounds, they might be like, well, that kind of sounds pretty lame, you know? But again, it's in context, right? The listener isn't going to be able to solo any of these tracks. They're listening for that end result. So just keep that in mind. Just because it sounds whack on its own, it might really add a lot to the overall sound. As far as the bus as a whole, that's all I have going on. I do have a string drone as well that's not a part of the bus, and this is what that sounds like. So just another level of atmosphere going on. This is what the whole synth bus sounds like together. Next, let's go ahead and move over to the bass bus. As far as the bass bus, I have two layers going on. I have my sub per usual. As far as post-processing, I have a little bit of R bass going on and then a little bit of EQ. For the second layer, I created this sound right here. It's just pretty much basic shapes. I do have a little bit of FM from A going on with the bend plus minus. They're both at -1. I have this automating the FM from A, the bend, and the wavetable position. I then do have some diode distortion, a little bit of hyperdimension, and then an EQ rolling off some of those top ends. And this is what that sounds like. And this was the gritty layer that I was kind of describing when I was talking about what separates melodic dub from just classic future bass. It's that gritty layer. And I noticed when I was listening to a lot of Illenium, especially the songs that he did with Excision, they just had a little more grit on that low end. You know, Excision being a dubstep artist, you know, when he does switch over to doing the melodic dubstep. And with this layer, that's what I was trying to achieve. As far as post-processing, I have a little bit of decapitator, some OTT, and what I did with the OTT was I pulled this band down just a little bit to kind of compress more of that top end and open up the mid and low because we wanted to achieve the top end with the synth bus. This was supposed to really capitalize on those low mids. And when I went about EQing it, you can kind of see that. I cut off the sub-frequencies and then I boosted around that mid-range. As far as bus processing, I have some sidechain and then I have a little bit of compression, and that is it. Next, let's talk about the drums. I just have one of our future bass kicks. This is what that sounds like. Next, I do have a few snares going on. And again, these are all from our Genesis sample pack down below. So if you guys like these sounds, we do have a whole sample-based pack called Genesis. We also have a whole serum bank called Exhale. So if you like any of these presets or anything, be sure to go check those out down below. So if you notice, we have an arrangement of snares. We have 2 different snares and 2 different claps going on. And that way, it just kind of gives it a back and forth kind of motion. It hits with this layer once, and then it hits with this layer, and then it repeats the process. And it just kind of keeps the drums more interesting, and this is what that sounds like together. And if you notice, I do have them shifted off the grid just a little bit from one another just to ensure they don't spike together, and it kind of gives it a natural swing. So just a little tip there. Next, I do have some crashes. And again, these aren't mine. These are cymatics. But I have 2 crashes rocking back and forth. This is what those sound like. And then I do have a ride going constantly in the background. And that's another trick for those big drops like future bass, or you want to fill out anything, even dubstep. If you want to have cymbals, a ride hitting everything, and then also a crash hitting back and forth are really big tricks to help fill up a drop. Next, let's go over to effects. As far as that first hit, this is just a little glitch from a Kashmir pack, and this is what that sounds like. I just thought it sounded cool. It almost has that rhythm dubstep vibes, and this is just a sample track, so I just wanted to experiment. Next, I do have another chop going on for the middle section, and this is another just vocal fill, and this is the whole thing. But I just cut it right in half, and this is what we got. Besides that, I do have some sweeps and risers. Something about risers is you can never really have enough of them for these kind of tracks. One of my mentors said, more risers for the kids. So always put more risers in. It just helps create this epic buildup. So, and I feel like I still could have put more in. I feel the build is lacking just a little bit. But again, I really wanted to tackle the drop because I feel like that's where people are confused about this style of music. Next, I do have some vocals, and I just got these from Splice. Besides the main vocal, something interesting I did was I took this ad-lib over here, and I chopped it up to kind of go in the background just to create another layer. And this is what that sounds like. And it's just kind of going in the background. I washed it out with some reverb, and then this actually interacts really well with this sample right here. If I didn't have this, I don't know if I would have gone with this fill right here. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up the vocals. So as far as the last things, I just have a few takeaways when I was exploring the sound, and you can apply these tips and tricks to pretty much any genre that you're making, but it is the power of layering. If I were to just take the same saw stack and layer it over and over again, you're probably going to have some phasing issues, and it's probably going to sound really basic. By pulling in different instruments and sounds and tonalities and things like that, you know, like a choir and then a tonal one shot and then a crowd roaring, maybe I could have pulled in a guitar or even like a saxophone, or just really interesting things and layering them on top of each other. They don't have to be the main entree of the sound. You can make your saws the main entree, but by stacking those other layers on there and then EQing them accordingly, you can get some really unique sounding saws. I want to thank my subscribers again for inspiring this video. Please let me know down in the comments. I really want to create stuff that you guys get value from. I'm doing this because I love to teach, but then I also really want to add value to the music community. So if there's any questions or comments or anything you guys want me to make, definitely let me know down below. If you don't, then I'm not going to know. I can't read your minds. So I hope this inspired you guys. I hope you guys learned a lot. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And peace.